targeted study about this particular area, especially involving locally based websites such as Sulit. So our first rationale is to supplement knowledge on the contribution of Sulit as one of the leading classified ads website in the country by providing a detailed explanation on the transaction process that occurs between the consumers that use this platform. Moreover, we want to discuss what are the underlying risks posed on the consumers who wish to use it. Second is to strengthen the concept of how Sulit shaped the minds of its consumers and how it brought about a new culture that their hanap usap deal tagline encompasses. Third is to explain what is the status of Philippine automobile marketplace was before and how Sulit was able to ease the transaction process that happens between its consumers. And last is to identify the key influencers to the buyer's decision whether to purchase or not via Sulit. So our statement of the main problem of this study is what consumer culture has Sulit.com.ph created through its transaction process. Aside from that, we also aim to accomplish the following objectives. First is to discuss the transaction process. Second is to identify the salient features. Third is to enumerate key factors that affect consumers' decision in using the medium. Fourth is to enumerate the disadvantage. Fifth is to identify which among the three TPD factors, which are attitude towards the behavior, subjective norms, and perceived behavioral control greatly affects the buyer's decision. And lastly is to identify the consumer behavior created by the transaction process. So the arrival of online buy and sell websites redefined the distinctions of the new media here in the Philippines. So this study will be significant to the following people. First is to the students. So especially the marketing students, the study will help them understand and analyze how communication is utilized in the cyber marketing world. Second is the online entrepreneurs, wherein they will be familiarized with critical marketing strategies that will help them in their cyber businesses. Third is to the web developers who are considered as in charge of the technicalities of website enhancements. So they will have an idea on how online trading sites progress in terms of technicalities. Fourth is to the DTI and government, especially particularly for familiarity in cyber businesses, including those businesses that are legit and those that are not. Consumers, so knowledge on what these types of websites are capable of offering, and for them to be aware of what is practical and not practical to use as a purchasing medium. And for the future researchers, this study is considered as a benchmark. It's considered as a benchmarking. So this is open for follow line of investigation and studies, and open for supplementary development as well. Moving on to the scope and limitations. So we have chosen Sulit because it is a locally based online classified ads website, whereas the researchers also focused on automobiles being the top search category in Sulit, and to look into the transaction process involving expensive items like cars. So we have selected car buyers and dealers within Metro Manila through purposive sampling, wherein sellers should have engaged in any successful transaction, while the buyers should have made inquiries or bought a car through Sulit, and there was no age requirement and also non-gender specific, as long as they both engage in a successful transaction. So what the study wanted to fill in is the more in-depth analysis on the transaction between consumers using these kinds of websites. Especially that there is a limited related studies that discusses transaction most of the studies gathered are solely based on why people shop online. So to finally determine what consumer culture has suited for, we have the researchers use two theories. First is the media ecology by Marshall McLuhan. Media ecology is basically the study of the different social environments created by the use of different communication technologies. So we also have considered the premise that equally important in studying the environments created is to study the interactions that occur between media and humans. So here's the proposed model of media ecology made by the researchers. So we have identified four major components: the consumers, but we have taking into consideration that their goals and interests are complementary with each other. And at the top of that, we have the technology that connects the consumers. So encircling that interaction is the media environment being created by that transaction and the culture that emerges from that particular interaction. Another theory used is the theory of planned behavior by Asgen. So this framework is usually used for identifying factors that determine behavior and intention. So this is widely used for determining behavior in online purchasing communities. So the model illustrates that a behavior is determined by an intent to do it. And this intention, as shown in the model, is determined by three factors: the attitude, subjective norms, and perceived behavioral control. The researchers have merged the two theories and came up with a conceptual framework which shows what influences both the consumers and how the culture will emerge from the transactions between them. So before the transaction process, you can see that the factors affecting the car dealers, which is the two privileges offered by Sulit, and also subjective norms. On the other hand, we have enumerated factors like pricing, convenience, control and privacy, security, friendly website interface as the factors that affect buyers. But before any transaction happen, buyers will be affected by three factors, which are as follows: the subjective norms, the perceived behavioral control, and the attitude. So, after weighing out those three factors, this may lead to negative and positive attitude. So, if it will be negative, then the transaction will not push through. But if it will be positive, then they will proceed on the transaction. So that's how we present the transaction process and what factors affect them in their decision.
So for our study design, we used the methodology focused interview on car buyers, car dealers, Sulit's corporate communication head, Ms. Jean Magloy, and also a web developer, Mr. Jimmy Giriad Bayumo. To reiterate our criteria about the car buyers and car dealers, we limited it to Metro Manila car buyers and car dealers, since according to Sulit themselves, according to the staff of Sulit, Metro Manila gives the highest traffic when it comes to searching automobiles. So we used, for our sampling method, again, we used purposive sampling. And again, as I have stated, our criteria for car buyers and car dealers should have engaged in successful transactions, while the car buyers should have inquired or also made successful transactions. So to summarize the results of our study, we have made a matrix with their corresponding objectives. So for the car dealers first, our first objective, if you may remember, is to discuss a transaction process that happens between car dealers and car buyers. So first, this is how car dealers describe the transaction process. First, they post the advertisement. Second, they let their prospect buyers find them. Third, they schedule the meetup. And fourth, they come to a negotiation. On the other hand, this is how the buyers describe the transaction process. First, they input the item or the model in the search engine, and then they call the dealer, and then they also schedule the meetup, and then they negotiate, they bargain about the price, and lastly, they do the payment by either bank financing or cash. So our second objective is to identify the salient features of sulit.com.ph which encourage the car dealers to use it as their medium for selling. So we identified only one salient feature of the website. It is their higher traffic. According to Jean Bagbo, their corporate communication head, they receive 70 million page views per month and a minimum of 50,000 page views per day. So this traffic allows the sellers to gain in more inquiries and more potential sales. So for the buyers, the researchers also enumerate the key factors which affect or which make the buyer use the website to procure their car. Only one key informant was able to answer this question properly, and his answer was supported by Jean Bagbo. First, the thing to take into account is the price. We all, as stated in our related literature, the online retail stores are expected to offer lower prices than the usual. So, first thing to be considered is the price, and second, the convenience it offers. So, what is convenience? The convenience that the website offers means the buyer does not have to travel from one place to another just to get to a potential car dealer or just to make negotiations with different car dealers. So what they do is to just search for the potential car dealer, and then when they already decided they like this or they are already safe with this car dealer, they may now proceed with the meetup. Now for the disadvantages, the researchers have enumerated two. The disadvantages came from the buyer's perspective, which are the following. The first one is that there are so many scamming or shady sellers or bogus sellers out there. They enumerated this as a disadvantage because 2 out of the key informants were able to see or able to experience themselves this type of inconveniences. And the second is that we all know that online retail store does not, the pictures on the online retail store does not assure us that it is what they really look like physically. So for the next objective is to identify the most dominant of the three theory of planned behavior factors. Let me reiterate again that they were the attitude towards the behavior, subjective norms, and perceived behavioral control. So what came out as the most dominant is the subjective norms, or to explain further, the buyers consider others' opinion first before, like for example, their car enthusiasts, their parents, their friends, and also car mechanics to know if they should give it a go or give the transaction a go. So for the consumer culture or behavior, we name it as the virtual castle. Now, why did we name it as a virtual castle? First of all, it's not really different as with the conventional one, except that the medium is already a website. To explain further, the mode of payment is the same with the conventional, like bank financing and also cash. Second, the virtual castle provides for convenience. Like what I have explained earlier, the convenience means the buyer does not have to travel from one place to another to get to a decision or to finally negotiate for the payment or the car that they like. Next is cheaper. Cheaper not in the sense of the markdown, but also it may also be linked to convenience, in which, again, they do not have to spend for gasoline, they do not have to spend for travel fares. And lastly, the ability of the virtual casa is to attract more customers or their wider reach, as explained by the traffic. This gives the sellers the opportunity to gain more inquiries and also gain potential sales. So in conclusion, we have coined the virtual casa as the saving grace of the automobile industry. So why did we coin that? So from the results of our study, again, let me reiterate again that the convenience, the prices, and also it's not really different from the conventional. That is why. And also the idea that even the largest or the biggest automobile companies are also venturing online is supported by this idea. So let me give the microphone again to Gia.
So for our recommendations, we have here practical. That is to regulate the online scammers, especially that my partner has presented that one of the disadvantages in using this video is that these online scammers are not being regulated as of now, and no tax imposition on products sold online. The government or the governing body must look in depth first before imposing such, given that they have studied the whole system. So another is further research. So the study is open for follow line of investigation, especially on the concept of a virtual community phenomenon. And for the theoretical, we have the information system model and technology acceptance model. Both theories are about information system, which would help determine other external stimuli that may affect the consumers in engaging in online transactions. So that's all. Thank you very much and good morning.